we're gonna take a glove off again. We'll start at the floor. How's it down the floor? It's a little warm, right?
Yeah.
Where do you hit heat?
Right here.
Yeah, but it gets a little too warm right here, right?
Yeah.
So now the thermal plane has been dropped to about here. Okay, so now we're in the fully developed stage. Now the fire is pretty much at its max.
I got the demo, the ProTech Vision, the Dragonfire X2S, and the FireDex Pro 3D gloves. These were provided by FirePenny. I'm just going to run you through the specs of them real quick and the cost, and then I'm going to get into how they were using them out in the fire ground and kind of thoughts and opinions on them. We'll start with the FireDex. They are extremely soft, very nice gloves. They are a cowhide grain leather, and then they've got rolled fingertips. So you can see there's no seam there at the fingertip. It's over about where your nail would be. And then they've got a 3-layer liner. They've got the outer shell, which is the leather. They've got a moisture barrier and then a thermal liner in them as well. And within the fingertips, there's 9 attachment points to keep your liner from pulling out. These gloves retail for about $140. These are the ProTech 8 Vision. These gloves are a mix of actually buffalo grain leather and Kevlar. So you can see here, anywhere where the yellow is at is Kevlar, and then on the fingertips is Kevlar as well, and then down towards the palm. These have a mud acrylic liner in them, and these gloves retail for about $80. These are the Dragonfire X2S gloves. They are a combination of cowhide and goat leather. They've got grain leather here on the top, and then everywhere you see this red leather is where the goat leather is. In addition to that, they have what's called their Covenex liner. It's got carbon fiber in it, and these gloves retail for about $120. These gloves were all demoed over about a month-and-a-half period from the middle of May until now. During that time period, I taught 2 fire academies, and I attended a fire conference, and then had multiple large-scale multi-agency trainings that I used them in. So we got a lot of good reps in using them. I wasn't able to actually test every single pair of these gloves. One of the guys I work with, his name's Seth, he demoed a pair as well. So I'm going to have him jump in here and talk about the pair that he used, and we're going to go through some questions. So Seth, if you want to come on in. So I'll scoot back. I'll let Seth hear the pictures. He got the demo, the Dragonfire X2S. So I'm going to have him talk about those, have him answer a couple questions, and then I've got my 2 gloves. I'll start with the ProTech 8s. These gloves out of the box were extremely comfortable, and they're very soft. Putting them on, though, the liner was kind of the biggest concern for me. As you put it on, the fingertips are just hard to kind of find your way into the fingertips through the liner, and then once you get your fingertips in there, it almost feels like it's loose. It doesn't quite feel like it's attached very well, which is different. I actually wore a pair of ProTechs for about 10 years, and these are very different from the ones that I wore. Obviously, they were a different model, but I was expecting a little bit different out of the liner, so that was a little bit of a surprise for me. With the liner being like that, it actually became even more and more of a problem as I used them, especially when my hands were wet. So that was kind of the biggest thing, is to get them on and off. They weren't super easy when your hands are dry, and they were even harder when they were wet. Outside of that, I really liked how soft they were. I liked kind of the combination of the Kevlar and the buffalo leather. It had the leather in all the spots that are kind of the working parts of your hand, and then the parts where it bends is kind of where that Kevlar was at. So I like that a lot. I did not, like I said, the liner, that was the biggest thing I didn't like, was just the way the liner felt on my hand. These gloves retail for $80, like I said, so that's just something to keep in mind with these. So I'll have Seth, he'll talk about the Dragonfire gloves now.
So I use these gloves in multiple fire academies, a couple live burns, and 1 fire conference. I like them because they're really comfortable and they're red. I don't like them because they're hard to get on and off, especially when they're wet, and especially after they dry from being wet. They're take a while to break in after that.
So just from me trying them on, I never got to use the Dragonfires in any live fire scenario, but they were easy when they were dry to slide your hand in and out, and the liner didn't move. The liner's attached very well. But as I used them, and I can show you real quick, The hands they're very stiff, so like that's as far as you can close your hand with them. Like you can force it down quite a bit, but you're taking a lot of extra energy to close. So Seth ran into some problems masking up with his gloves on because there's not very much dexterity to those gloves. I used kind of their previous versions of them, and it was just kind of the same thing. So like this, like bending your finger, as you can see there. See if I can get it in the frame for you. Like it's hard, like that's as far as you can bend your finger down. Doing the dexterity, like it's hard to move. Like that's taking a lot of motion to move my fingers. The previous pair of Dragonfire gloves that I wore were the same. They're just extremely stiff. I don't know if there's a break-in period that I don't know about with these gloves. I tried to look it up on their website. I tried to see if there was like specific things you had to do. I just couldn't find anything. When you bend your fingers though, it just feels like there's something hard in the fingers that keeps them from bending. That could be that carbon fiber in the liner. I don't know. But that was just something to consider. The pair that I wore the most was the FireDex Pro 3D. They're extremely soft glove to put on. Dexterity, like I said, is a big thing, and you can touch all your fingertips very easily with these gloves on. And they're extremely soft. They come out of the box ready to go. Like you said, you fold them in half. They're a really good glove. They're comfortable. The only problem that I ran into, and it kind of changed as I broke them in, I guess you could say a little bit. The seam right here on the side of the finger, as you bend, it like binds in bunches in your finger. So almost all the fingers do that. So that was a little uncomfortable. Other than that, they were really nice gloves. The liner was a little bit different because of that 3-layer design. You have a liner that's like a direct, like you feel like your hand, like you're wearing a latex glove inside of this is kind of what it feels like. And that was fine until it got wet. Then your hand, that stuck to your hand trying to pull it out. So you'd pull it and you could just feel it moving, but it's got a lot of extra attachment points. So the company is saying that it won't come out. I never had experience with ripping the liner out. It just felt like it could pull out. Out of the box, we're going to go through like what we would have picked without wearing these gloves. I think personally, just having known about these, I would have picked the FireDex just because I knew about these ahead of time and they're similar to what I already wear. The ProTech would have been high up on my list because I had wore another pair of ProTechs before, and because I'd wore a different pair of Dragonfires, I don't know if I would have picked the Dragonfires immediately. But I do say that I do like these gloves. I like the appearance. A lot of people are switching back to that grain leather from the suede leather, and I would say these are definitely an improvement from their previous versions. What about you, Seth? What would you have picked?
I picked these ones because they're red, and I like the color red. And I don't know anything else about gloves, so I was just picking one that I liked.
Cool. Would you have picked any of the other ones, or just stuck with those?
I would have just stuck with these.
Okay. So now after using these, my opinion would be a little bit different. Is I would have, my first go-to out of these three is going to be the FireDex gloves. They were extremely comfortable. They performed well in every scenario I put them in. Second pair I would pick is going to be the Dragonfires, just because of the liner issues with the ProTechs. What about you, Seth?
I would have chose the FireDex over any of them.
So like I said, the retail value is kind of what comes into play. These are $80. These are 140, the FireDex, and these are 120, the Dragonfires. So the biggest thing that you could take away from this is honestly, obviously buy what you can afford. There's some really nice gloves out there, and there's some that are better than others, and some that are a little cheaper that could work just as well. But the most important thing is it doesn't matter what pair of gloves you own. If you're not training, it doesn't matter. You can have the coolest gloves, the most expensive, most comfortable gloves, and if you're not using them, you're not getting out and practicing, then they're going to be a waste of time and a waste of money. You could have the cheapest, trashiest gloves, and if you're out training every day, then they're going to work just fine for you. So at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Gloves are kind of a personal preference. I've got my opinions based off of experience, and also based off of training and my needs. So take that and keep that in mind as you go and pick your gloves.